Oh. He's eating candy. Sorry, I couldn't figure out what he was crunching.
Wait, you could hear the crunch?
I can hear the crunch because I don't have headphones on.
Okay. Whoops. All right. I'll save this last one for after.
You do what you want.
It's
I
just
don't
a
care.
sweet tart.
This is a third-rate podcast.
Oh, my tum-tum. Because I buy it like, I want to read this book. And then...
I like books. I hate reading.
Did you ever used to listen or watch the My Little Pony cartoons? One of the episodes for the Toys That Made Us documentary was, this season it was TMNT, Power Rangers, My Little Pony, and wrestling. And
Nice.
when they were talking about the My Little Pony show...
Everything that we stocked at Target.
Yeah, really. The wrestling one is more interesting than I thought.
Yeah.
This is businesses fighting each other tooth and nail.
Like wrestlers poaching and then businesses poaching rights to make toys.
It's great.
Ridiculous.
But like, there's a through line in all of these these companies. Is that toy first and then cartoon. And
usually, yeah.
They did the My Little Pony, and then they had a My Little Pony cartoon, which I don't think they focus tested at all for girls because it started with like.
This was like back in the 80s?
Yes, and they had two white middle-aged dudes making this movie or this TV movie. Yeah,
and the opening is just like ponies and chains and like people riding dragons and
like a scary castle and lightning and there's like laughing and like something about like trying to save the ponies. I don't know. It was very dark.
Did Care Bears already exist at this point? I think
yes. Because there's an episode, the Care Bear movie.
Take some hints.
Is terrifying. The end. There's like the kid who's slowly being possessed by a demon in a book.
Jeez, I had no idea.
It's bad. And like the Care Bears have to show him love again, essentially, for him to come back from being possessed by a demon book. It's fucked up. Wow, 80s.
What a time.
There's your introduction.
Yeah. There's your intro to this episode.
So that was a party.
Yeah.
We're going to continue the party. God,
yes.
This is
it's just never in the party.
The latest I think we've ever recorded.
Yes, it is.
We're in pajamas where I am.
Basically.
I am.
I got some
100%
fake Uggs. Today with me is Amber.
Yes, hello.
And Brandon.
Hi.
And we're talking about the 13th Warrior.
Who is the 13th Warrior?
You?
Oh, shit.
Wait, so you're Antonio Banderas all along?
I am Arab. My name is Ibn
Abin. I don't even know.
Had you guys seen this before?
No. I think I've only heard you talk about the movie.
Probably.
Yeah.
I've never seen it. I didn't even know it existed. At first, I thought you were talking about when you said 13th Warrior in the email. My head got mixed up with another warrior, so we had like the Ruse. Do you know what I'm talking about? And so, okay, don't worry about it. Warriors of Virtue is what I was thinking of, which is something completely different. Huh. My brain was like, I don't know what I'm getting myself into.
Yeah, I don't know when I first watched it. I know we had it on tape. This would have been a dad movie because...
It seems like a dad movie.
He studied German in college. And so he was like way into this.
Gotcha.
And I thus became way into this. Like, I later minored in Norwegian.
Okay, yeah.
And yeah.
Did this movie have an effect on that?
I don't think so because you don't hear a lot of the Scandinavian.
No, it's gone within the first like 15, 20 minutes of the movie.
Pretty much, yeah. I'm sure it didn't hurt. Anything else to start out before I read the summary?
Let's see.
You said it's a dad movie, and I totally feel it.
I feel like your dad watched this.
Yeah, I feel like my dad has seen this movie. I should ask him if he's seen this movie, because it feels like definitely a thing, just tone-wise and theme-wise, just something that a dad would watch in the 90s.
Something very interesting that I read was that it's apparently huge in Russia among the right wing.
I could see some of it because there's a lot of masculinity.
I mean, it's mostly blonde white dudes, first of all.
Dude bros hanging out, making
fun of the brown man.
Yeah.
Is this part of the resurgence of, or the adoption of Nordic themes and icons being appropriated by alt-right personalities?
I would assume that has something to do with it. I didn't dig very far, but...
See, I get I've been seeing a lot more Nordic iconography lately.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I like that stuff.
Runes and stuff.
But yeah, I hate that it comes with this thought of, is this person, you know, using this icon because, you know, of the actual history or because they are trying to
appropriate it for their own
display,
idealism.
display a kind of like hidden, like
a dog whistle,
like a dog whistle, but in physical form.
So I've definitely seen things on the internet where people who are like at Ren fairs and stuff that sell stuff that have like Nordic runes and the kind of stuff. They'll put up a sign that specifically says this has nothing to do with blah 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 blah, and then
kind of cool.
And just to be like, we do not support that. This is not what this is. This is purely like from, you know, this is what this is, but not that.
Yeah.
Definitely not that.
I've seen some similar warnings of like, just so you know, if you buy this icon or this, you know, this rune, it is used in this context and by certain people. So like kind of buyer beware.
Yeah, it's like this new version of the swastika was just this beautiful figure that was used by like Buddhists or something.
Yeah, I think so.
And now it's just one of the most evil things in the world.
Yeah. Can't go back.
Yeah, I know.
There is no going back.
The place I work, we resell this brand called Guardian Bell. Like there's little bells that people hang on their motorcycles.
Oh, okay.
There's a ton of different designs, and one of them was like very intricate looking Scandinavian thing. And I was like, I should maybe look up what this symbol is because I need to know if Guardian Bell is super like that.
Yes.
And I think they're chill. I think it's fine. I think it's an actual like Scandinavian thing, but who knows anymore?
Yeah,
right.
I hate that. I just want to see something at face value and appreciate it for what it is, rather than is there something else?
Is somebody
being said?
using it and how the meaning has been?
Yeah, because there's so much history and culture there.
Yeah.
It is sad to see it warped.
And me being a 100% Germanic person, like blood-wise, it's like that is where I come from,
right?
And that's also where they come from, you know? And then like 10 years ago when I was taking this minor, me as a white person never even thought about this stuff, but now it's like in the news every fucking day.
Yeah, true.
So like just within the past 10 years, that I think has really changed, at least as far as the publicity. Ugh. But I think there's been a huge rise in that stuff too. Like there's, I think, a ton more little groups that have popped up in the past just couple of years. Like I know Patriot Prayer's a new one, and all the ones out west are a bunch of bullshit. Anyway.
See, I was hoping it would be more popularized because of the recent God of War game. Like there was a lot of really cool...
Well, God of War also has a lot of the same feelings of this movie too. Like there's like a lot of...
But I mean, like it's putting light to... I know it's, you know, fictionalized, but it's like one of those things that helps... bring interested people into this, you know, other culture, even though it's not, you know, it is a like Disney-fied version of that culture.
Right. Yes. Which is why there's a lot of people who watch the media that's been Disney-fied can like, you get this very like two-dimensional view aspect of it, and you go like, ooh, I really like this super idealized character or this kind of feeling, and then they use it for their own, not really understanding like. There's more to it than just this thing that you're watching and consuming. Yeah,
and it should be a starting point for that person. That's what I would prefer that kind of a depiction to be, of like, oh, this is interesting. Let me learn more about it. Like with Moana, where even though it was, you know, several cultures.
Yeah, they mushed like 4 different Polynesian cultures together to make Moana.
It's still the situation where a kid can watch that and go, oh, this is really interesting. Let me go to the library and check out 20 books on this.
Yeah, and because I have to mention Mass Effect in every episode, the actress that did Tali specifically didn't aim for an accent that existed in the world so that it wouldn't point to any one culture.
Nice. That's good considering the type of civilization they had.
Right, this nomadic outcasts, and they got kicked around a lot.
Yeah, nobody wanted them.
No.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. So yeah, I just thought that was interesting.
That is.
All right, let's do this summary. A man, having fallen in love with the wrong woman, is sent by the Sultan himself on a diplomatic mission to a distant land as an ambassador. Stopping at a Viking village port to restock on supplies, he finds himself unwittingly embroiled in a quest to banish a mysterious threat in a distant Viking land.
I think that's a pretty good setup.
Yeah.
Like
that's a
I'm
good
glad
setup.
I'm glad they didn't have much in the scene with the jealousy and it's just set up straight of like the king wants to get rid of the guy. So now he's an ambassador. So go away. Like that's it. That's like in the first minute maybe.
Yeah.
And no more
little exposition
time.
at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are bookends, and I think that actually works because of the framework that's around it. So it's an exposition dump, but that's kind of the framework of the story
fine.
in this case.
I'm okay with exposition in that way where it's like just a setup. Like
Sure.
I have to just, this is why it happened,
Yeah.
why I'm here right now.
Yeah,
That's
instead
fine.
of acting out a whole scene showing that, like, no,
Yeah.
you can just say it. Because
Yeah.
the more interesting thing is that you've sent this person to be a fish out of water
Yes.
Yeah.
in a new civilization
Yeah.
or region. Yeah, that's a really interesting setup.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of cool in that, I mean, we don't see much of what his life is like
Before.
but then
You get to see, though, like, especially in the camp, like, obviously he's used to being clean.
Yes. I have
Well,
things to say.
Okay.
But we don't have to know a lot about him to also not know a lot about the Vikings and learn along with him. So he can still be this audience surrogate, even if we can't necessarily identify with him. So I think the very first shot it's taken from the middle, sort of, where they're on a ship in the middle of a storm.
Yeah.
And he's like, here's my story of how I got to where I am.
Yeah.
Bad ocean CG is my
Yeah.
very
God.
first
I was
note.
like, as soon as I was like, man, that boat, that's not a boat that exists in the real world.
Maybe in a soundstage with a camera tilted.
Yeah.
So, we're traveling through the desert. The Tatars are coming.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah.
So they're like running from these people, and then they see the ship on the horizon, and the people who are attacking them run away.
Yeah.
So they must be pretty bad, right?
Yeah.
Must be. And turn the corner and there are more. And there's a whole camp.
He is warned not to engage with them, but then there's shopping.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm an ambassador. I'm supposed to talk to people.
Yeah, I really like that line. It's like, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
This is the whole purpose of being here.
Like, he doesn't even necessarily want to do the job, but he's gonna.
Yeah.
He wants to do it right.
I like that because that immediately showed a characteristic of his where he's very
He wants to learn.
curious about the world.
Yeah.
Even though he's been put here as punishment, he's going to make the best of it.
Right.
Antonio Banderas.
Yeah, okay.
At his cutest.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not saying because Antonio Banderas isn't cute. I'm saying because it's like he's supposed to be playing a. Yeah, I know. You're shrugging.
How do white people know the difference?
Well, I know,
That's
but
part of the problem.
I guess that's kind of like a 90s thing. I suppose we could talk about that later. But yeah, it's just so funny to me now watching it and going, wow. That's such a heavy Spanish accent.
Yeah,
it's very.
It's not where this person is supposed to be from.
Yeah, at least we upgraded from what was the movie in like the 70s or 80s where someone who was just straight white was playing someone of Middle Eastern-
Any movie in the 80s?
movie.
Yeah, so now we've gone up from just pure white man to
At least he's brown.
At least he's brown,
and
I
has
guess.
an accent.
So anyway, yes, Antonio Banderas now in Viking camp.
Yes. He's with his buddy, I guess.
Translator, I'm
Yeah.
supposing.
Yeah.
His Babelfish.
I am
Yeah.
both annoyed by the scene and really interested in what's going on.
I know
this chain of communication that's happening.
Yeah.
I was also a linguistics major, and so that's part of why
Yeah.
I'm like so excited about these couple scenes at the beginning.
Yeah. There's actually really, really interesting up for like the next, 15 minutes or
Yeah.
so where I'm like, oh, the language stuff is really cool. I was
Yeah.
like, this is cool to see how they're showing this in the movie.
Right.
Like this language barrier, how you talk and stuff like that.
So how do we get in contact with these people?
You just keep speaking different languages until one sticks.
Yeah.
And I like how when one guy did recognize not what he said, but maybe a language that his friend knows.
Yeah.
He
Like,
just walks up and
maybe
kicks
this guy.
the guy.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
He just kicks him at the table.
Hey, they're for you. I don't know what they're saying, but you do.
And so his translator speaks Greek to him. The subtitle said he was speaking Greek back, but I think it was Latin.
That's
So,
what the trivia said. Yeah.
Okay. Like, I don't know Greek or Latin, but one of them sounded more like Latin than the other.
Yeah.
So what's happening is we now have this Viking who is speaking with the translator, and we're asking what's happening. So what's happening in this tent here?
I think it's through a lot of series of communication, we find out that it's actually the funeral of their king.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like a lot of talking before that, because I can't even remember. It was like asking to see the king.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like, oh, he's out there. And then like,
But you can't talk to him.
but you can't talk to him because he's dead.
Maniacal laughter.
And then a fight breaks out and chest gets ripped open.
Yeah, just immediate gore.
And then he sits his ass back down. So we have this guy that knows all the languages it's hard to know anybody's fucking name.
Yeah.
I didn't even bother keeping track.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
I watched this movie so many times over the years and still never could figure any of them out. But I have a list. It's not going to help anybody, but it's here. This one is, well, he just laughs a lot. He's got this braid. I don't know. He's the greatest. He's really funny. I love him.
Is he the main one?
Yeah.
Okay. The one at the very end?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yep. Spoilers.
Yes, there's an ending to this movie.
And the one, spoilers, the movie ends. The one who kills somebody at this dinner is their new leader?
Who's going to argue?
So.
Yeah, he's
That guy
huge.
did, and he's dead.
Exactly.
Tall blonde guy.
Dude, he's, I think, 6'5".
Yeah. Tall blonde with chin length blonde hair.
And I wish I had looked it up, how many of them were actually Scandinavian. I know a couple of them were like that main guy that kind of takes care of Antonio Banderas. He's definitely Norwegian. I've seen him in some other stuff. But the big guy is Czech and was also the voice of Ulfric Stormcloak in Skyrim.
Oh, I didn't even think about how much crossover there might be specifically with that game and the setting. That's pretty interesting.
Which is funny because he is not Scandinavian. He's got a big, great voice, though.
Yeah, he fooled me.
Yeah, his Norwegian wasn't great, but he pulled it off well enough. So he kills a guy at this thing. Everybody's fine with it. We observe this Viking funeral where this is the first time we hear this, I guess, poem that they recite, this kind of chant. The "Lo, there do I see my father" speech.
Right, yeah.
It's just kind of a send-off. We observe that someone who is alive goes along to the grave with him, and the translator is told, like, you won't see this again. This is the old ways.
I like that they were throwing the girl in the air while she was reciting. Like, she would recite, and they would hold her up, and then they would pull her down, I guess, so she can take a breath or something like that, and just keep this back and forth going of...
Yeah, that was interesting visually. So this is, I guess, a good time to ask, how much of this movie did you guys, like, get? Like, could you catch or could you follow most of the time?
I mean, I knew a king was dead, and they were going to send him off. I knew that... I mean, it was all just a big party at that point.
Yeah.
There wasn't too much going on.
The whole movie to me kind of felt like I think I kept a lot of times. I'm like, what is happening now?
Yeah.
What is happening now?
Well, definitely later on, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely later on for sure. There's lots of stuff, but like even at the beginning, like I just felt kind of not lost, but just nothing was very like concrete. I wasn't sure. There's like a lot of stuff where it's just like I just didn't feel sure what was happening in the movie.
I mean, that definitely fits with our perspective because they are
at the beginning anyway.
They're having to figure out what's going on through like two separate people, like the chain of translators.
Yeah.
So like anything that's going on in the real world, they're getting, slightly outdated information.
Yeah.
Right.
Stuff is happening in the background.
Right. We get a little bit of culture. The next morning, there's a ship that has arrived, and somebody's just out standing there.
Yeah, that was a cool culture bit. I liked that.
Yeah, showing them that he's not a ghost or something like that.
Yeah, because apparently the story is bad things come with the mists, and so he was being polite, letting them decide if he's real.
Yeah.
And so when they do come into the camp, tell me about that. I feel like I'm doing all the talking.
Oh yeah, sorry.
You're fine.
It's because this movie
I'm
was
just really excited.
Yeah, I mean, so this basically a little boy. I mean, he couldn't have been more than like 12, 13 years old. Like he was still he wasn't a teen yet. Comes into camp and basically is telling the other, like the clan who's just put their king to rest, like, I come from such and such place, my father sent me, and I think that's right, his father sent me, and there's an we cannot speak the name of this evil that is basically come upon our land, essentially.
Right.
That's helpful.
And what's really interesting is we are being told this. He's talking with everybody, and then of course the translator is telling this to Antonio Banderas' character. So it's this very just like short, like just how I just said it. Oh, he's saying that his father sent him. He's from this place, and there's this like they cannot speak the name of this evil. And I'm not exactly sure what the transition was that happened, but he was like, I need your help. I need people to help. But then all of a sudden this like witch character came in being led by a little boy, so she must have been like blind or something.
Yeah, there was some kind she's an oracle. She was working with the oracle bones.
Gotcha.
I think maybe one of them called for her to see like, okay, what can we do? How do we help these people?
Sure. So she's doing her thing and basically says, we need 13 people, one for each month of the year, and then people just started volunteering. And it's like this very like they're like, we're gonna go, I will be the first, and then you know this, and then it all gets quiet, and it's like, oh, you know,
she's holding up this brown bone.
She's holding up a brown bone, and everybody goes quiet. And Antonio's like, what's going on? and then the translator's like, well, the 13th warrior is not going to be a Northman.
Yeah, he can't be a Northman.
And you look around the room.
Well, you got two options.
And one's a translator
and
who's
one of them
old.
is ancient.
Yes, one of them is ancient. So, looks like you're going. And he just goes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, he's an ambassador. What's he going to do?
But this is when he gets separated from his translator.
Yes.
And I like the part where they look at his horse.
Oh, yeah.
The other warriors, and they start barking at it, and I was like, what the heck? And he was like, of course an Arab would bring a dog to a war or something, calling the horse a dog. And yeah, that was pretty funny.
Which, you know, Clydesdales would be really inefficient. I'm just saying.
Well,
so,
we get a taste of that later.
It's, yeah.
So then it's like, this is where I was kind of like, I was also knitting while I was doing this.
Okay.
So this is where I was like, some of it was like, okay, so they're traveling to now on horseback to wherever.
Oh, yeah. They ask him what his name is.
Oh, yeah.
And he recites his whole Arabic thing.
Yeah.
And the only thing they hear is the Ibn.
But that means son of.
Yeah.
Mr.
He's trying to explain it, but
Mr. Son of.
The laughing guy's like, Ibn. You're Ibn.
We forgot about the bowl of backwash.
Oh, we skipped over all of that. So yeah, before
he's observing.
Oh man.
Can we not? Okay, I can't really talk about it.
We don't have
because
to.
it makes me gag. No, it makes me gag thinking
Okay.
about it because they're just showing like their hygiene stuff, and it was like 3 people sharing a bowl of water and washing their. Okay, let's not.
I don't know if that's part of the culture, but that was
just what they did.
I don't know because I know that Vikings were actually cleanlier than other cultures at the time.
Oh, okay.
Like they were bathing every week kind of culture rather than twice a year. So
yeah, like some of Europe.
Well, I guess they didn't get the memo on the hand washing thing.
Ugh.
I don't know.
So that scene was gross.
But then after like the bowl has been through like 3 people, the laughing guy kind of plops the bowl in front of him like, I know this is going to fuck with him. You know, he kind of has that look about him like, I know you're not going to like this, so I'm just going to play with you.
Gross.
I think they just immediately just pushed it away.
I would have vomited on the spot.
I'm good.
But yeah.
Okay, so we have his name.
Mr. Son of.
And they're traveling now, and I'm not sure how much time passes. This is one of those things where I'm not sure. But like...
Probably a lot, because they're on the sea at some point.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So eventually they get to a camp, and there's this like really cool scene. I really think this was awesome.
Yes.
Because it's like he's sitting there in the campfire and he's listening to everybody talk.
They're all speaking Scandinavian.
And all of them speaking. But then every once in a while he'll hear something.
English word.
He'll pick up a word.
English, you know.
From
his point of view for us. And then he's like putting all these, he's now being able to understand what they're talking about. And then I like how they show that he's talking in their language back because he goes very slow.
Yeah.
And kind of uneasy as he's saying words. but it was a really great moment because somebody had said something. The laughing one, the braid in the hair. I can't remember which one it was.
They were all telling a story, and then it was the one with the tattoos across his face.
Yeah.
Said something like, she was probably some smoke-colored camp girl. Looked like that one's mother.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Mama jokes.
Yeah, and then he
didn't like that.
Did not like that, and was like, my mother was a fine or noble
pure woman.
A pure woman.
And
at least I know who my father is.
Pig-eating son of a whore.
And then bonding.
Yeah, they kind of attack him at first. They're like, how the hell do you know our language?
Where'd you learn that?
I listened.
Yeah, I've been listening.
And then the laughing guy laughs.
Yeah,
he thinks this is great. This guy's cool.
And then one of them was like, can you draw sounds?
So I think it's important to distinguish the laughing guy from the big guy. The big guy, his name is Bulvai.
Okay.
And I mean, after this point, the story is Beowulf. And the big guy, Bulvai, is basically Beowulf. So I think he's the main character, really. It's just being told through the point of view of this outsider.
Yeah.
So yes, he is the one that asks,
can you draw sounds?
You can draw sounds. Show me.
Yeah. Which was really cool.
Yeah, and he got a stick and he
showed him the
here's some Arabic in the sand.
Something. There's only one true God.
Yes. His only prophet is Muhammad.
Yeah.
Or no, and Muhammad is his own. I can't remember how the phrasing goes, but yes, it's the thing.
But he writes it in Arabic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't see in the dark and the sand and the.
Bulvai kind of looks at it, and then walks away.
Yeah.
Like, okay, fine, whatever.
Yeah. Is this when they get to the town finally? I feel like there wasn't another bonding scene.
Did they do the horse scene after this, or was this later?
I think the horse scene came next, where he was showing off his horse stuff.
Yep.
Because they keep making fun of his horse.
And he's like, let me show you something.
And then he said something about a dog, and he's like, I heard that the first time. And then...
Getting tired of this.
He basically just
They keep barking at it, and so
he just basically runs all through with his horse that's like agile and can jump over like another horse, essentially.
Yeah, he jumped over the guy who was on the horse. And I think did he fall off completely?
Yeah, he knocked him off onto the ground in the mud.
Covered in mud.
And he laughed, though.
He did. I like that guy, too. And then they ride away, and Bulvai smiles and is like, so the dog can jump.
Yeah.
And now they're chill. We're bonding,
they're
friends.
Now we're friends. Because I start calling him little brother eventually.
The one does, for sure.
Yeah.
Which is very sweet. I love that guy so much.
Is this now when they get to the town?
I think so.
Yeah, this is where they are sailing, and they get close to land.
Oh yeah, they're shooting the arrows.
I really like that.
Me too.
Because I didn't know this was what they did potentially.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah,
because it was so foggy they couldn't see anything, but they obviously don't want to hit the shore. That's bad.
Yeah.
So somebody's screaming over the bow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Odin.
Listening for that echo.
Yes.
And the other guy was shooting a flaming arrow. Listen for that hiss or the tink if land
and
is
then
there.
the flame is still burning.
Mm-hmm.
So they find land.
Mm-hmm.
A messenger basically comes to meet them at the shore.
Yes.
Oh wait, right here before we get to the messenger, Bulvai quizzes him, and he's like, "Speak what I draw."
Oh yeah.
And so he draws it again in the sand.
Wasn't Bulvai the one who was drawing?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was. I didn't know he knew Arabic.
Because he's that fucking smart. He didn't. He just memorized it.
Yeah.
And I think he was really testing him to make sure that he wasn't bullshitting him. Of like, you really do know what you're writing. You're not just drawing squiggles.
Yeah.
Because I've left something off to test if you could put it back on.
Right.
Kind of thing. So I think he's just that sharp. So yes, then we go into the village. As they're walking in, they're like, this place doesn't have a fence. You couldn't keep a cow out of here. Like, no fortification at all.
No.
You people are afraid of something coming in, and what are you doing here? There's, what did they say, not a man between 15 and 50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The King's Hall is, Eben doesn't seem very impressed because he looks up and there's a big hole in the middle of the ceiling, probably to let the smoke out, but it's raining inside, and he's just like, this place.
Yeah. Countryside, people.
It's kind of reminded me of Lord of the Rings in, what's that one village? The horse village? With the king who was like,
yeah.
being poisoned.
I totally thought of that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably because of the way the king was kind of laying off to the side.
Mm-hmm.
He was doing that Jarl stance in the chair.
Yeah, totally.
Every single Jarl in Skyrim has the same animations of them sitting on the chair in like a really casual, like
super
off to the
laid
side
back.
way.
Yeah.
Every Jarl.
Wide stance kind of
Yeah.
thing. Like, yeah.
And then there was, I don't know if his son was shown in the scene or not, but
I think so.
he kind of reminded me of the Vizier in Lord of the Rings, the sneaky one, because this son was kind of shady.
The older son?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So basically the king is asking for help.
Yeah.
And so they go outside and they're like, this guy just might be crazy. Like, maybe there's nothing going on here. So they make all these plans like, okay, well, we at least need to build a fence. Let's go out and do some recon kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then they see...
A figure running, right?
Yes.
Which is, okay, so I don't know how they shot this film or like, there's a lot of stuff I will talk about later on about the camera stuff. But when I saw that figure running and they zoomed up on it, the proportions of the body looked weird to me. And so I immediately thought it was something horrifying coming. I thought it was like some sort of like creepy, because they're building up like this evil that, you cannot speak of. And there's like some sort of like potential magical.
So it's kind of like a red
or,
herring.
Like, yeah. And I was like, and
I had
Brandon's
like a giant head, and I was
I
like,
could see that.
This kind of looks. Is this a Titan from Attack on Titan?
yeah, we're like
It
the way
did
it,
kinda look
the way
like
it
that.
ran, because like you didn't really get clean features either. It was just
It was
like
too far away, yeah.
peachy and like big head,
Yeah,
and
the
it was running
proportions.
weird, and like I couldn't tell the scale because of like the shrubberies, how it was. But then when they actually go run off to meet that figure, it's like a child of like 4 years old.
Yeah.
Completely naked.
The queen recognizes the kid, says he's from a farmstead, and I will take you there.
Yeah.
Because something bad fucking happened at this farmstead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this kid was covered in blood.
He was covered in blood. He had his hands over his
Yeah.
ears and was crying and completely naked. And yeah, God knows how long he'd been running out in the woods. And he had blood all over his hands and on his smeared on his body. Spooky.
So they go check out this farmstead. It's all tore up, deserted, except for bodies.
I was laughing at when they were entering into the hut. The way they did it was like this weird special forces. They were on top of
Slicing
the
the pie.
ceiling, and
On the roof.
the guy on the roof of the hut like did this somersault
off.
into the window.
Yeah.
Crashed into the window. And then he came out and said everything was okay.
Or he was like, all clear.
He did his
essentially.
little. There were a lot of hand
Hand
signals
signals,
in
yeah.
this movie, but it was just the funniest little stunt.
And then they go in and it's just body.
Oh yeah,
No head.
headless
A body
bodies.
hanging from the rafters. No head.
Blood everywhere.
Blood everywhere.
Antonio Banderas throws up.
Yeah.
He's not about it. And then says, they have been gnawed upon.
Yes.
And this is when I was like, oh, this must be Eaters of the Dead. That's referring to
100%.
because I forgot about the movie starting with that. This is an adaptation of Eaters of the Dead.
Mm-hmm. So we have these bodies that have been gnawed upon, and the laughing one says, it is said that they eat the dead.
They won't say, but they said the name, didn't they?
Yeah, they start saying the name at this point.
Wendigo.
Wendell.
Oh my God. I said that to Brandon. I was like, is that another Wendigo movie? Are we just watching Ravenous?
They can't really follow the trail, and they find this little figurine of a female body.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
a fertility statue, it
Yeah.
looks like. No head, but
they
very
have
much like Venus of Willendorf.
They show a lot of vitriol toward this statue, so
Yeah, like-
you have to
Yeah.
think that they've maybe seen it before and
They saw it and like threw it on the ground.
spat on it.
Yeah, and then Ibn's like, I'll look at it.
Yeah, he picks it up and pockets it, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're like trying to figure out anything they can about these things, and like they can't follow the trail, but they're like looking out over the horizon and seeing animals run away.
Mhm.
So like they're still out there somewhere. We're probably being watched at all times.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, this is when Ibn had his hand up to his face and was looking, and they're like, "Put your hand down."
That's the first time he calls him little brother.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know. They say they're not going to go chase after him because they'll basically disperse, so there's not going to be any way to catch him. But it is said they come with the mist, so
Yeah.
we're going to wait for a fog and expect to be ambushed.
that's a pretty creepy concept to
Yes.
just 100% tie one with the other of like, if there's mist, they're going to be here.
Yeah. Which explains a lot about the ship at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they're back at the banquet hall. They don't drink because, like, again, they're expecting this ambush because they see the fog coming. This is when that confrontation happens.
Yes.
The older guy, the prince, is like basically egging Bullseye on for some reason.
Yeah.
Like this huge man. He's real shitty, taunting him. Apparently killed his brothers.
Yeah, because he said something about,
Right.
or at least there's rumors, you know.
Yeah, Bullseye kind of bites back. Prince gets real shitty, and this is when the king is like, basically, put it together. This is still my table because I'm still alive, like it or not.
Yeah.
They talked to this one-eyed dude that survived the burning of the village a couple
that
years back.
guy was cool.
Yeah, he was cool.
Like, that was the first time I was like, oh, this guy must be like a Shakespearean actor or something. Just the way he was moving his mouth and phrasing everything.
This even looked like his eyes were weird over the, like, something about his brow looked strange to me.
Yeah, he had that scars over his head. He just had a great delivery.
The old king, who is clearly infirm in some way, thinks he's going to come along with the watch, but the queen kind of gives Bullseye this look of like, please, please do something. And so he very diplomatically says, we need you here to protect the children in case they get past us.
Wow.
That was really smart.
It was very Viking.
Yeah.
That was, maybe Game of Thrones stole that in that one scene where they are going into the Stark crypts. They're putting all the women and children underground.
Yeah.
And there's this one girl who's like, I want to fight.
Yeah.
And someone very diplomatically said, well, who's going to protect them down here if they get down here?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like a great way of just pacifying this king and still making him
Feel
It's
important.
letting him save face while also keeping him alive.
Yeah.
So basically the whole town is hiding out, except for the 13 camp out in the hall.
Yeah.
big snoring fest.
Yeah. And some
fake
people are just,
snores.
Yeah.
Their eyes wide open.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This was the first. And yeah, so they just get ambushed, essentially, right? Like, all of a sudden, these weird-looking humanoids jump through. And because it's all shadow, you can't really tell what's happening. So you see, like, basically, like, this bear face.
Yeah, you see bear heads, bear claws.
bear claws, but they're moving like humans, and it's, like, really fast.
Do we see weapons here, or do we just see the claws? I mean, well, we do see a couple decapitations, I guess.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I think there might have been some spears. I can't remember.
But at least one person, at least two people, two of the 13.
Two of them went at this
Two
point.
of them, their heads were taken.
Yeah, one guy just got his head ripped clean off.
Yes.
Yeah, that was really,
Yeah.
whoa. And then, like, when everything was said and done, and they knew that they had killed some of them, they turned, like, the lights are all back on, they're looking around, doing the, taking note of what's happened, and, like, there's no bodies. They can't find any of that they killed. They're
Right.
like, I killed at least two.
Yeah.
I did too.
Even the Arab got one.
Yeah.
The only thing they found was the part of the paw
Yep.
that someone had, which was one of the weapons they were using.
And I think it was this when Antonio got clawed in the face.
Yes.
Yeah, he got it.
So
He
we
got it hard.
introduce a love interest, I guess.
I know.
She's very cute, at least, but
I was really happy that they kept the scar through the whole movie from this point on.
I kept getting her and the queen mixed up.
Yeah. This woman specifically was like coming and going all the time. I just never.
Yeah.
She would just come out of nowhere.
Yeah, she just like show up out of nowhere. I was like, what?
She was at the banquet earlier trying to pour somebody's mead or something, but they covered their cup, which is when Ahmed was like, so we're not drinking tonight, apparently. No, we are not.
She's got to smear that cow urine on his head.
Boiled down. Yeah, what's the problem?
Like, no, water. And
Urine has got stuff in it.
Ammonia.
It's got ammonia. It's going to kill any bacteria.
So once he was talking about, no, just use water. And she's like, it's going to get pussy.
Fine.
And you're going to have a fever. And he's like, okay, cow urine it is.
Yeah, exactly. I liked that he got put in his place like that.
Yeah. Like acting like she didn't know what she was doing. Or her culture was backwards. But no.
Right.
No,
they
she knew what
know
she was
how
doing.
to deal with their land.
So this is like the next thing is like their montage building a bunch of stuff to fortify is that right? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. I
Okay,
believe
so they're fortifying, they're building like walls and pikes, and this is when Brandon's seeing arrows being collected.
Yeah, I'll talk about this in a bit. But this is when they gave him the big sword.
Oh, yeah.
Quote unquote big. It didn't look that big, but
He tried swinging it around and he was not having a good time.
Because he was trying to cut the wood like that guy was doing.
Yeah.
He had been given the sword a while back and said, I can't lift this. The laughing guy said, grow stronger.
Yeah, get good.
Fucking deal with it.
Yeah. So he's like swinging it around.
Yeah,
and
he's
then,
trying to use it.
Then he goes and sands it down.
Yeah, he looks for a metal worker and just kicks him off the forge and just
and
makes
makes
his
a
own
curved
And suddenly a
sword.
scimitar.
And suddenly a curved sword.
As though that would work as far as physics. And
and how metalworking
Exactly.
happens. Like, I was like, that
you just kind of bend it a
make
bit
sense.
and you're good.
You just don't like take a Swahinder and then just grind it for a little bit and you get a scimitar.
And apparently swords of that era weren't that heavy anyway. Like maybe 2 pounds.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I've heard even like, two-handed swords aren't as heavy as you think.
They're not.
They're just not. You don't really use swords like that anyway. You kind of use them for wrestling.
yeah, they're never supposed to hit each other, a sword blades.
No.
Like it's mostly
You'll
for
just destroy a sword.
blunt force is
Yeah.
mainly.
God, yeah.
And a slice if you happen to get it.
Which is what's coming up next, right? They know that the prince is upset with them being there.
Right. So
Like a power struggle's happening right now.
the woman that was taking care of his injuries, she comes up and she basically asks him, she's like, there's rumors, like the prince is, like, be careful of that guy because he's telling everybody that Bulvi is trying to steal our kingdom. Is that true? And he's like, no, it's not. And so he goes back to Bulvi and says, here's what they're saying. And so they have to devise this plan of like, okay. We're going to put this guy in his place.
See, that's something that I missed because I thought she was saying that the king's son was plotting to kill the king, like through poison. I think that this was me mishearing it. I thought he said something about poisoning his hair or something.
No, he's putting poison in his ear.
Okay. This is when I would have preferred subtitles.
We didn't have subtitles.
Okay, that's good to know.
So there's this, basically, I guess the prince is trying to like, it's just a power grab. He's just trying to grab power.
I think he's jealous because he's clearly not very good at fighting, and Bulvi's this big
and this
fucking
is
Viking.
my favorite part of the entire movie.
Really?
It is my favorite part.
So they single out this guy,
the tall redhead, and they're like, to make an example.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, what's happening? What's going to happen
I know
right
there's
now?
a gift for this.
I was like, what's going to happen? And so they're in a pit, digging out trenches, putting up pikes, and one guy, the tall guy, the tall blonde, the leader, was that Bulvi?
The one doing they wanted him to stay away.
Yeah, he wanted to stay away, but somebody else.
This was
the
an
laughing
older guy.
The laughing guy did it. Yeah.
Yes.
I like him a lot.
I know, he's my favorite.
He says, okay, I'll take care of this. You stay out of it. You stay out of it. And they are in a pit together with him and the tall redhead guy are in a pit, and like they're shoveling, dirt, and he keeps like throwing dirt onto this guy, causing friction, and eventually instigation, and eventually let's do battle, I guess.
Yeah.
I just like that it was like, what was it?
I love
you called me a dog? Like, no, it said you dig like a dog.
Like a dog. Throwing dirt around
Can't you
like
hear
an
what
animal.
I say? Are you calling me deaf?
Yeah. I like that he was being very specific about, no, I didn't say this. I said this.
Yeah.
And he just...
Oh, now I'm an animal?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't say you're an animal. Oh, now I'm deaf?
Yeah.
That's great.
And
He's so cute.
The red-headed guy is huge.
He's big.
He's like as big as Bulvi and just ripped. He's just a very stocky, like well-built man. And so they end up going to do some sort. It's obviously some sort of like.
It's a very. It has a clear setup. Like they each have three shields,
and they have to fight each other.
Right.
And this is when Antonio Banderas says like, what is happening on? And I like the answer was like, we're engineering
an engineering dispute.
Yeah, engineering dispute.
He's like, he's bigger than you, right?
Yes.
And younger?
Yeah. And I was like, oh, I know what's going to happen. And of course there's like betting happening and everybody's watching because they don't have HBO or Hulu. And it's like, oh yes, let's watch this fight happen between a clearly outmatched, scenario. And Laughing Man just gets like run down. Like This dude is like hacking at it with his huge sword, breaking his shield.
The first shield goes almost immediately.
Yeah, just immediately broken. Gets a second shield, lasts a little bit longer. And he's just sweating because, like,
he had said, "Bet on him if you like."
Yeah,
like that.
That was a good one. Yeah, because Antonio was just like, "Don't do this. Why are you doing this?
You're my friend.
Yeah,
you're my pal.
Don't die, please." And so second shield goes. He's sweating. He's starting to get, out of breath. Gets a third shield, and it just keeps going.
Ahmed is going to Bullseye, being like, "You have to stop this. Like, he could die. It's possible."
Yes. And that's the point where I'm like, come on, you know what's going to happen. You know, third shield ends up going.
Yep, just him and no shield now.
Yeah.
And I do want to throw in here, I think it's interesting that Ahmed is kind of running around all over the place, like being really distressed. So, like, it's probably pretty comforting for the redheaded guy that, like, this one on their team is so concerned.
Right. And at this point, no shield happens.
Yeah, this is when the king's son kind of gives the guy the go-ahead.
Yeah.
It's like, just finish him off now.
Yeah, because he's kneeling on the ground,
with his sword in front of him.
Yep.
And this is when the redhead goes to do two hands, overhand swing to go kill, and immediately Laughing Man turns real quick up, behead. Blood.
Beautiful.
It was so good.
There's like lines of splatter on people's faces.
And then it hit the prince in the face too. And then they threw his money back at his feet.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which is like, that's a very Viking thing too, of like,
is this blood money?
It's like, we're even now. Like, they would have had reason for recourse if they weren't compensated in some way.
Makes sense.
Yeah. For some reason, there's a saga that I read for this class that was like a 200-page thing, but this scene that stuck out to me was the main character's brother is killed, I believe, and he's like mopey, until somebody basically gives him gold armbands, which are basically the same thing, this money, and he perks up right away, like the world has returned its balance, like the debt has been paid, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
I loved it so much.
It's a good theme that I like in certain movies when you have a duel and one person's just, holding their punches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pulling their punches.
Because he says...
You could have killed him at will.
Yeah, you could have killed him.
Yes. Why the deception? Deception was the point.
Yeah.
Any fool can calculate strength. The prince, basically. The prince he's been doing it from the moment he saw us. Now he has to calculate what he can't see.
Yeah.
So basically put him in his place.
Yes. Which was so good.
Yep.
I like when the prince storms off.
Yeah, so that's basically resolved, that subplot, I guess.
I guess.
Well, at least according to the movie.
Yeah.
I could have done with, one more scene about that.
A little bit. But then, like I said, it works for me having read what I have read about the time period and the morality and the way things work. Like, it doesn't work for us as modern people, but for them it was just like, I got the money, so
because we see that and we think he's
good.
Plotting something now.
Yeah.
But he's not. He's good.
It's misleading for our audiences, I believe. They're on some kind of watch. Ahmed brings food to this guy that's up in the trees.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. Just how that guy was really hidden up there.
Yeah.
He just kind of parted some branches, and there he was.
I think he said, like, I expected you to be at the watchtower, and he's like, that's why I wasn't up there. And so you hear thunder, and he corrects him. He's like, no, it's surf. Like, 3 miles off, there's cliffs, and the waves make thunder.
Oh, I didn't catch that at that time.
The thunder cliffs. Yeah, so that was planted earlier.
Oh, cool.
That makes sense now.
Was that confusing toward the end when that came up later?
No, I just remember that it was...
Yeah, because I missed that at that point. And so when later on he was saying, I was like, how does he know? Why is he saying this? But anyway, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. And while he's up there, they spot...
Fire.
The fireworm.
Yeah.
And, like, the woman had talked to Ahmed about the fireworm at one point. And he's like...
I don't believe that
Fire
shit.
serpent? A dragon?
Yeah.
I don't believe in dragons.
Yeah.
But then there's this line of fire coming down the hill.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like all hands on deck.
Time for a party.
Yeah, this is where I was frustrated.
Okay.
because you see scenes of them loading tons of arrows up into some of the higher parts of I think the second story of that main building, and probably into some towers too. Not a single arrow is shot.
Not a single one.
And it strategically is just, it would be so in their advantage to do that, but it never happens. Because
no, it happens later on.
It definitely happens later on.
But not when they should have been doing it now.
Yeah, because the fireworm, you see the line of torches, and you get closer view of them.
Yeah, so what happens is they've closed off the gate, but somebody spots there's a kid running down the hill.
Yeah.
Another one of these. And it would probably take too much time for them to hack the gate open. And so Ahmed's dog jumps over the fence, which puts him close enough to actually see what the fireworm is.
Mm-hmm.
And it is cavalry with torches.
Just got you.
And so
arrow barrage. Just do that.
Yeah.
Don't even aim. Just shoot up.
When he reports back that it's just men with torches, the laughing man, I would prefer a dragon, actually. There are hundreds of people.
Yeah. Yes. So many of these people.
So many targets.
So many people. I was like...
That's a lot of dead bears.
That's exactly what Brandon said. And I was like, where are they getting all these other people?
I had to, in my head, go like, okay, some of them have to be crafts. They have a lot of craft time.
Yeah.
Some of them, I'm sure, have real bear heads, but they cannot all be real.
Yeah, some are paper mache.
Because there was like 400 or 500 people in this, like, whatever these people are called. Because, they find out, like...
As long as 100 ships.
So fighting happens. And at one point, Ahmed kills one of these guys and looks and goes, oh, it's just a man.
Yeah.
It's just a man.
Like he's been terrified
of that there are some otherworldly beings, which is cool.
This is something I forgot to bring up earlier. When they were fighting in the hut, the Great Hall, the first part that they were fighting, they were dubbing in animal sounds for...
I thought I heard some...
Yeah. They were really building up the supernatural aspect because they had crazy strength. They had, the bodies being...
Somebody picked somebody up and threw them.
Yeah, there was a lot of strength, and there was no bodies left over.
Right, bodies disappearing.
Yeah, they really built up the supernatural aspect, also through the sound design with the growls and stuff like that. They were probably still growling in this scene, but this is when you had that realization that, yes, they are just men. There's nothing supernatural about them.
Right. One of them falls back, and the headdress falls back, and you just see this face covered in face paint.
Yeah.
But he's like, I can kill these.
Yeah, this is just a man.
And
he's just a man.
Goes wild.
Yeah, and starts going and killing, and I don't know, why did they end up retreating? Was it just because they killed a lot of them?
That's a good question.
What happened was they took some of the pikes and stood on them. Yeah. And it was basically against these horses. Yeah. And I think that's what finally did it, was that a lot of the horses, like the front line kind of people, there was enough of a dent put in them, I think, that they wanted to go back and regroup. And he goes so crazy that the laughing man looks at him like, it's all right, little brother. There are more of them.
Oh, yeah, I have in my note, so about the arrows and stuff. So the first arrows that were shot by these two groups were the bear people.
Okay.
That just frustrated me.
So I think at this point, did they go see the woman now? I can't remember.
So here's what I have in my notes. I guess there still was animal dub sounds for these people during that fight. And then my next note, so apparently the fight must be over. That lady keeps showing up out of nowhere, and now they're holding hands. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then they go sleep together in the hay.
Yeah. And he's still wearing his chainmail shirt, so I'm not sure anything really happened.
I don't know.
And then I have drinking horns are stupid.
It's legit, man.
I get it, but just, chop off that bottom and put a bottom on it so you can put it on a table.
They're holders.
I guess it's just strange. But then I had the workaround.
There's more room for the alcohol if you don't cut the bottom off.
Yeah, I guess that's true. And I like the exchange at this point where even is talking about, can't have the fermentation of the grape.
Right, like
or
the
of
laughing man
Yeah.
tries to give him the drinking horn.
It's like, can't have fermented grapes or wheat. And he starts laughing.
It's laughing. What is so funny?
He's like, it's honey.
It's made from honey.
Yeah.
And so he just throws it back.
He found that workaround.
Yep.
And that's when the girl comes and they share the meat and hand-holding, et cetera, et cetera.
Quote unquote hand-holding.
So in the morning, they do find a couple of the bodies on the fences.
Mm-hmm.
And they take a look at it, and one of the guys is like, it's like the mating of a man and beast.
Mm-hmm.
And Ahmed is like, no, it's a man. It's just a man. And Bulvai says, if it's a man, then it sleeps. If it sleeps, there's a lair, and we have a trail.
Yeah.
That's when the queen takes them to the crazy woman. She's quite mad.
She was old when my grandmother was, around, essentially. She didn't look that old.
Her teeth were pretty gnarly.
Oh, I didn't look at her teeth too
much. Those are pretty gross.
But yeah,
it was like she just took a bite of the ground, the earth.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Like she's chomping on charcoal briquettes.
Yeah, like all the gaps in your teeth, just fill them with dirt, and that's what she looked like.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I must have blurred that out of my mind.
Yeah, maybe.
Good.
Some cryptic talking.
Yeah, she asks if there's, if they have an item, a thing of these people.
Mm.
And Ahmed gives them the woman figure.
Mm-hmm.
The old lady says, this is the mother.
Mm-hmm.
If you kill the mother... I think the way she puts it is like, what is it? War is fought in the will. And then later she says, she is the will. So basically kill her and that's their...
Yeah. They're like, well, where do we find her? And then you'll find her in the earth.
She is the earth. You'll find her in the earth. And Bulvai just like...
Oh my God. So like every time I'm in a D&D game and like Josh's character NPC tries to give me information, like, just come on. Tell me you know. I know you know. None of this.
So then they're on a hunt. They're walking through the forests where there was no trail before. They have now found one, saying a child could follow this trail. Like
they're not even afraid of, or
right.
They're not even worried. Like,
because they have caused so much fear that they know they won't be followed.
Right.
So there's no point in hiding
hiding
their tracks anymore.
And that's when they get to, is this when Ahmed's putting things together about the earth and he's like, well, they're wearing bears. They think they're bears.
Yeah.
And how do you hunt a bear?
Yeah.
And he was like, well, dogs. And he's like, well, how do you hunt a bear in the winter?
Yeah.
Oh, well, they're in caves. And then that's when they all dawned on them. Oh, they're probably in some sort of underground or cave thing. And that makes sense with what she said, that she's in the earth.
She's in the earth.
I'm really bothered thinking about the logistics of this group of people, like all these horses that they have and they maintain, and
they live in.
Where do they keep them?
That's a problem with the movie.
There's
For sure.
to me, and I can let things like this go when I start thinking about movies like D&D, like one shots or setups, because I know, like, I've done things where I put in like a campaign. And I'm like, no one's gonna think about the logistics too hard. Don't ask me about that.
That's apparently another group that there's one of the cults following this movie is D&D people.
It makes for a really good one shot. It really does. Like, you're in a camp and then a kid comes in. I need help.
Stranger in a strange land kind of thing.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, they make it to the cliffs, right?
There's at least some buildings that are outside,
like huts. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's mostly like a bridge,
Bridge
just a rope
town.
bridge.
Yeah.
Which, if you're not keeping your horses outside and you're keeping them inside, you got hundreds of horses that are crossing this rickety ass bridge. So
I'm assuming
that might not be the only path.
Yeah, I don't know. But they're looking for a cave. They see people walking into, basically underneath of them, they can see like people are disappearing into the cliffs. Oh, they're in the cliffs.
Mm-hmm. And they disguise
This
themselves.
is when it's covert time.
I didn't catch which one it was that was wearing, like, they have stolen one of the bear headdresses.
Yeah.
To get one of them up to the entrance and stab somebody in the head.
Yeah. That was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I was like, dang, that's a really good tactical move right there.
They remove most of, like, their plate armor, basically.
Yes.
Yeah, except for one guy.
Except for the one guy.
An asshole.
He's all right.
Well, he just immediately flubbed his stealth check.
Yeah. Chunk against the wall.
Some rock fell down and hit against this plate.
But then everybody's still wearing their chainmail, so I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, but they're sneaking into this area. This place was ridiculous.
It was huge.
Again, it's like, where are these? How?
Where is, yeah.
Yeah, what? And they're sneaking in. They're getting down further and further. Like, how far into the earth are we?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is going on forever.
What was it that one of the guys said about, like, you could fall through the earth or something like that?
Right out
This
the
is
other
bottom of
side.
the earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God.
They see a huge statue of the female figure,
Yeah.
and then suddenly bones
That
everywhere.
was pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
Was
It
that
was just-
before or after the waterfall?
Before.
Climbed down. Okay.
Yeah. So they're like looking, and it's just strewn about with human skulls, human bones. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Like 1,000?
Yeah.
Thousands of, hundreds of thousands of
Yeah.
bones, but
Got
at
a-
least 1,000 humans.
Got a lot of people to feed.
And
Got a lot of
it's
horses to
just
feed.
everywhere. God. And he goes, "Oh, I was wrong.
These
They
are not men."
These are not men." And I don't know, they find like some like little path off of it.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a really cool area scene too. It's like you see the beheaded heads hanging down off of what looks like roots coming down from the.
That's later.
Oh, is it later?
That's
Oops.
yeah. They're like up on this little cliff looking down, like trying to figure out how can we attack these guys and
Yeah.
not draw way too much attention at one time.
Mm-hmm.
So they decide they're gonna use this waterfall to sort of block them rappelling down the wall.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, they tied a rope to a stalactite.
Yeah, I laughed so hard. That seems safe.
D&D.
Yeah,
Video
it's
games.
fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just think of Uncharted and
Yeah. They swung across. They tied a rope to swing across a waterfall to tie another rope to go down. I was like, you could just tie the first rope and go down. Like, you're equally hidden both ways, but it doesn't matter.
yeah, it doesn't.
It was
doesn't
just
matter.
it was just there so that they could swing across and Eben can have his
Almost falling.
yes. But they're all daring and dashing and they all get across.
I like that when they land, he's standing there in the water looking at the rope burn in his gloves. I kind of liked that.
Oh, I missed that.
Mm.
So then they attack.
Stealth.
Yeah.
The laughing guy screams at Bullvi like, "You go take care of the mother." And Bullvi makes this face of like, "I have never in my life walked away from a fight."
Mm-hmm.
But he has to go do this thing.
Yep.
So he goes to do this thing, and that's where...
When you see the heads hanging from the roots, and there's all
Yeah.
manner of decay. I think they see the head of one of their
there
friends.
are a couple heads that you recognize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
fresh ones.
it's the creepiest. Like, this
It's-
part really was, like, super creepy.
Yes.
And he's walking through, and he sees this woman and an attendant, I'm assuming, sitting on the ground, and she has a snake.
A very obviously not venomous snake.
Yeah.
Red
What's-
touches
She's
black.
You're okay, Jack.
Okay.
Red touches yellow. You're
I
a
was
dead
trying to
fellow.
remember what the second
Yeah.
part of that
Yeah.
was.
So it's the king snake and not the coral snake. I can't remember.
That sounds about right. I don't know.
King snake's the safe one and coral's the poison.
I know coral's
whatever.
bad.
Or yeah. So anyway, so she's got that, and
King
she's
snake is just a snake
dipping
that
like
eats other snakes.
she's dipping like a claw into blood or some black ichor looking
Yeah.
stuff, and the attendant jumps up to go and just gets it
Gets sliced immediately.
immediately.
Didn't they get cut in half?
I believe so.
I think that was the
Something like that. It was at
implication.
least across the middle.
Yeah. And then now it's just this really tense moment between the mother and
I like that it didn't last very long because it's just this woman who is basically unarmed except for one scratch of
raptor
poison.
claw.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She makes a move first. He goes to attack. She jumps back. She gets him on his back, and then he turns and just slices her head right off. There's a lot of
Right
beheading
on.
in this
There's
movie.
a lot.
I think there were 6, at least that I saw on screen.
So now they're ready to escape because it is done.
Yes.
They've now done what they came to do. So they're trying to escape.
Mm-hmm.
One of the redheads, the one that's still alive, notices a passage going down.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Which is like terrifying to me because it's like you don't even know.
Ugh.
well,
Okay.
I think they decide to go in it because there's a stream there. Like they just say,
they
we're going to
can't-
follow this stream because it's got to go out somewhere.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The older guy that refused to take off his armor decides, I'm done.
Yeah.
He's bleeding from somewhere and He says, today was a good day. Like, he is very happy with what he has accomplished, and he just wants the others to go on.
Very Mad Max. Today is going to be.
So then they come to what seems like a dead end. They're just kind of like, okay, what the fuck do we do now?
Because there's water in front of them, and
the redhead hears, he's like, to make it worse, it's gonna rain. Maniacal laughter.
Yeah.
And then the guy from the tree, basically, the guy with the curly mullet, and Ahmed look at each other like, Thundercliffs? Thundercliffs.
Yeah. The surf is here.
Yes.
This must lead out to the ocean. This is terrifying to me.
I hate this shit.
Yep.
Me too. Like,
not
I
logical.
immediately get claustrophobic thinking about the idea of swimming in the dark underwater through a hole that you
it was
don't
surprisingly
even know.
well lit, first of all.
Well, for the movie, but in reality, they would be in pitch fucking black.
Yes.
At least according to the trivia, someone almost drowned in the scene.
Yep.
Yes.
The laughing man almost died.
Oh my god! And see, to me, it's like this is where I'm like, well, I guess I could either die by bearmen or die by drowning. I think I would rather die by bearmen than die by drowning.
Just underwater cave stuff is already, creepy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because have you seen some of those cutouts of the people who get trapped in caves sometimes?
Oh god!
I need to send you a
No.
JPEG. I'll send you a JPEG of something that is frightening. It is like some Junji Ito stuff of you look at this picture, this cutaway, and you don't know how this person got into this predicament in terms of the layout of the caves, but you can't imagine getting out yourself. It is ridiculous.
So this is not.
Now add water to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, you don't know. Sure, there's a hole and there's water's coming in somehow, but you don't know how big that hole is. It could be human size.
And the
or
laughing
it could
man,
be like a golf ball
he
size.
makes a comment. He says, we'll know if it comes out, because if they don't follow, it's too far to swim.
Yeah. God.
So Stoudemire almost
Here,
dies.
sorry, I need to show you this.
Oh, no.
So this is the picture. The guy who is in black is the guy needing
Send
rescue.
it to me on Tumblr somehow so I can put it in the thing
Okay.
eventually. Oh, fuck me.
Oh, I need to see it, too.
Like, how do you get in that predicament, first of all, and how would you have gotten out?
Is he actually upside down?
He is upside down. And so is the rescuer.
Shut up.
Oh, I need to see this. I'm going to have to Google.
Oh my god. It's like all that soccer team that got stuck after they went into this cave and the water came up and they couldn't get back out.
Oh.
Yeah, fuck that. Fuck all of that. Fuck a cave. Fuck a bunch of water. No thanks.
What the fuck?
Is your brain parsing what's going on? It's kind of
I
hard.
can't even
go up and then down and then to get this guy, but
It
why
looks-
was he doing this?
it
Why
Yes,
was he in there?
exactly.
Too
It's that-
narrow.
This is
Wow.
the general problem with cave stuff. It's like, do you go forward or do you go backwards? Like, do you go forward thinking that there is a better, safer exit?
Yeah.
Or do you, go with the
The unknown.
very
This-
difficult backtracking?
And that is if you're not already lost. Like, if you're too panicked to be like, all right, keep the one hand on the same wall kind of thing.
Yeah.
Ugh.
God, I don't know. I have bad claustrophobia. So cave stuff is just never. I can't even. There was one time we went to a true dungeon, basically a escape room kind of setup thing, and they had a area where you just walk through this tunnel, and it was air. It was kind of like walking through two air mattresses, essentially being pushed on you.
Ugh.
And
Nope.
I tried. I stepped one foot in, and I got another foot in. I immediately was this. I started to sweat. I was super hot. I couldn't breathe, and I was like, nope. And I stepped out,
will
and I
not.
went the alternate route that they had set up for people who had the same who have claustrophobia as well.
That's cool that they did
They
that.
do that, yeah.
Oh, wait, I need to show you the little bit further back. They show the entrance of it. So he goes up and then over. I showed you the close-up version, Amber.
my
I'll show you the
God.
full path.
Here.
That's the full path.
I hate it.
Why
How?
did he do this?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Spelunking is stupid. Don't do it.
Ugh.
So this is what all of our Viking friends were doing.
Yes.
There is spelunking.
But with water.
But with water.
Luckily, they found that
Hole.
one tiny hole.
And they pop out in the ocean. Yay.
It's over. The movie's done. They did it.
Yep, they killed the mother.
They killed the mother. The end.
But she also said,
yeah, I know.
you have to kill the leader.
Yeah.
He wears the horns of power. I believe that's what she said.
I think, yeah, horns of power.
Because that's how Bulvi recognizes him.
So Bulvi is poisoned.
He's poisoned. He's not doing so hot.
They get back, and what's his face? Laughing Man was telling, what's his name?
Ahmed,
to go to sleep, get some rest.
Yep.
I can't do it. He's like, well, you don't know. They're going to come back. You know, they're going to, we killed their mother. They're going to want to, you know, take care of it. And he's like, what? Oh, God. And literally within like 5 seconds of saying that, the horns.
Yeah,
because
they're
the
like,
mist is coming.
Yeah, he's trying to say, I don't think the fog will be here today. So they're now coming in broad daylight. They're that pissed.
Yeah. And there are so many of them.
Yeah.
What? And they all have
They
horses?
all have horses.
How are they feeding 700 horses?
They all now apparently know how to fight on horseback.
I noticed that the Vikings are loading up more arrows that they're not going to shoot.
Cool.
Yes.
Cool.
This is where I was like, okay, in the D&D one shot, the GM's tired. The GM is definitely tired right now.
Can't even do anything with these arrows. It starts to rain. The Laughing Man says, well, we don't have to worry about fire this time. Because, like, in the last battle, the bears were, like, throwing torches into the the city, which is, like, the whole place basically burned down, which is...
Don't have to worry about fire.
No, so we're cool now.
Yeah, all the stakes that they made.
This is the first time we see Ahmed do a prayer.
Yes.
Yeah, the very first time.
A slightly Christianized prayer.
Yeah,
Well,
and
you
then
don't want to scare audiences as I roll my eyes.
oh my God, yeah. And then Bulvi comes out.
He comes stumbling out with his...
He looks like garbage.
He looks real bad.
Like hot trash. Yeah. Soggy hot trash.
With his big red soggy dog.
Yeah. Oh, poor pup.
I know.
And they start to sing. They start to do their some sort of poem.
That chant from the beginning.
Yeah, chant from the beginning.
Lo, there do I see my father. Lo, there do I see my mother and my sisters and my brothers and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Viking shit.
And then one last hurrah.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of battling happening.
Yep.
And then
the two big dudes get to fight each other.
the horned bear man.
Yeah, he notices the horns, so he knows that's the guy I gotta kill.
Yeah.
So he kind of like slices the horse down and
Yeah, horsies. Always the horses,
Yep.
the true casualties of war.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude falls off the horse, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Everybody gets the group text, and they all leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty instant.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like
They know.
without even like anything.
Fucking group
And
text.
remember, there are like 700 of these horses and men. And then like you see 10 people battle, and then you see like 5 people run out on horses, and then like one person like falls off the horse.
They disappear over the hills.
Yeah. And the rest of the 500 just go off to I don't know, find another mother.
They could have flattened the whole Viking
They could
settlement
have
at that
killed the
point.
whole. Yeah, I know. They were so.
But
Like,
they
is
don't
there
know
not-
what the hell to do without their boss man.
Is there not like a number 2?
Or,
Nope.
All
Never
right.
need
Or
one.
manifesto, or like some sort of like.
Sure, okay.
They never had to hide their tracks, so why would they need somebody to replace their leader they're never going to lose?
God.
They're all a bunch of sensitive babies.
Snowflakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then Bulvi.
Sits his ass down in front of the spiked fence, and it
dies.
looks like a throne.
Yeah.
Pretty
that
fucking
was,
cool.
That was the thing too. Like the king told him that you would be buried like
Yeah.
a king.
He says, I
Yeah.
have only these hands. I will die a pauper. And the king says, you will be buried like a king.
Yeah.
And it's very sad. And so he kills the leader with this big fancy king sword that he was given.
And sits down and promptly expires.
The dog is sad.
Oh, but Eben also said that he was going to write a poem about him or something.
Oh,
He's gonna
Yeah,
yeah,
it was
yeah.
at that
forward.
point. Oh, God. So
Yeah, we missed a whole scene.
me, I actually cried at this point because I was like, it's so Viking.
Oh.
He says, you'll be buried. This king says, you'll be buried like a king. And then Bulvi looks at Ahmed and says, a man might be considered wealthy if someone were to draw his story, basically.
No.
I know. Which, I want to tell you a little bit about skaldic poetry.
Okay.
So runes are really hard to carve, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most people aren't literate. So the way it's an oral culture, basically. And the way you get stories passed down accurately is to have poems with these really, really strict rules that are really memorable.
Mm-hmm.
And so you remember everything word for word. And so it's like, instead of this oral poem being composed like normal, he's going to have someone write it down.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, oh, it's so real.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets his funeral. Ahmed is writing the story, and I have his inkwell is so far away. He reaches up over. Like, okay. And that's the end.
Yeah.
He goes back home, says goodbye to his best buddy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
The end. That was the 13th warrior.
All right.
Anything else that you noticed? Anything that struck you? Something, or maybe something that you were confused that maybe with my years of expertise I could.
No, I don't think so. I think we pretty much covered everything.
Yeah, a lot of the things that I was confused about, you
already
you corrected,
already told us.
And yeah, I was glad to hear some of your knowledge on that Scandinavian stuff.
I did a minute amount of refreshing, but I think there was enough of the basics that I remembered that it was useful here.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess go ahead and what's the thing?
I think for me, the thing is just the fish out of water situation. Just like an Arabic person in a very different.
Yeah.
I love stuff like that. Like, it reminds me a lot of one of my favorite movies as a kid, when I was really too young to know what a good movie was Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Uh-huh. Okay.
With the, they had a little bit of that.
Is that the comedy one?
No. That's Men in Tights.
Yeah.
Is this the Kevin Costner?
This is the Kevin Costner
Got you.
one. It had a little bit of that with Morgan Freeman, who was playing a Moor.
Right.
Who was in England. And, this wasn't accurate, but he had, better technology than the Englishman did. He had telescopes, not chronologically accurate, but still, he had his own culture, and he was interacting with that. And I love seeing that. Mm-hmm. And this reminded me a lot of that, we have this Arabic person who is just thrown in this very different world, and he gets along with everybody after, a few scenes of...
Sure. I mean, there's going to be tension when nobody really understands each other.
Yeah.
It's just going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I like that even though they were warriors, everybody was very friendly with each other.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of laughing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There was not many interpersonal
disputes,
conflicts or anything like that. Like, they had the one where he called him a son of a whore, and like the guy kind of jumped at him, but nobody hurt each other.
No.
They were all friends.
And I think that was more to make a point than...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, it was just such a fucking sick drop of like...
Yeah, so that's probably the thing for me, is just the fish out of water.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I definitely think I really liked that first 15, 20 minutes. Kind of the same thing what Brandon's saying, but I really liked how they treated how he learned the language and how that whole scene was really
that
good.
That campfire scene is the thing for me.
Yeah, and then outside of that, the next one is the fight.
Yeah.
The staged... engineered dispute.
Yeah.
Which was also very, very good. And I really liked that too.
I don't know if I can express how much I love how they did that, the learning the language thing. Like,
because it's kind of how it works too. Because it's like, Brandon and I watch enough anime, know enough that to the point where I look down all the time and I know when he's playing Dragon Quest what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she'll hear, Mina and pick out words and here and there.
Mm-hmm. Here and there, but contextually it's like once you have context and you can know certain words, you can kind of put together what is being said.
And that's why he's watching so hard. He's like trying to put words to the actions that, like, somebody throws something at one point, says hide, and so that's your word for here, you know?
Right.
And like English, the way we hear it in the audience, we're to understand that it is Arabic at first. And then he starts to hear English words, so he starts to understand. Like, anything that's in English is something that he understands.
Right.
And so even like toward the end when he's praying, it doesn't bother me that he's still praying in English because he understands both of these languages now.
Right.
And just like as a writer, I'm like, oh, I love how you do that.
Yeah, it's really good.
That was a great, just like the way they have it set up in film form, because people don't like subtitles.
Yeah.
And to get across the feeling of understanding,
Yeah.
as opposed to just, going all the way with the subtitles.
Right.
It really depicted how that feels as opposed to what it actually is.
Yeah, like it puts you right up in the middle of a bunch
Right.
of Scandinavian, but then you start to hear them say English words in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to hear more and more English phrases over time, and it's just
Yeah,
like so
and,
fucking
and
cool.
what I also liked is how they treated how he talked when he started talking
Yeah.
English, where he wasn't just like all of a sudden just said like this whole phrase. It took him a good minute to get out.
To make sure
He was saying the right
had
stuff.
the syntax
Yes.
right.
And that was really cool because that's really asking the audience to get on board with that, because we've heard him speak English. So for him to say this, use the same language but slower, we have to ourselves understand that he's actually speaking their language.
Right.
Yeah, which is really cool because like the way is how they're reacting around. Like
Yes.
everybody just stops
Yeah, it's
talking,
Dead
silent, and they're like looking at him like for the first time, like really like
Yeah, he's
like,
basically been on the outskirts of this campfire for however
Right.
many months or
it's,
whatever.
It's so funny because I'm thinking about one time in game we've played my in Tales from Oxbury, another Geekspective show. My character Vez, who speaks Goblin, and Chris's character, who is Bugbear, who also speaks Goblin. In the game, we talk like in common, like English, normal, like broken, very broken, and
Right.
just weird, right? And so everybody understands us, but we have like a weird going on.
Like
but
when
then,
Jake is speaking pug.
yes, exactly. And then we had a scene between the two of us, me and Chris, and without even
So eloquent.
without even like thinking about, we looked at each other like, oh, we're speaking Goblin, and then we just started talking full sentences and
That's
full
awesome.
everything, and it's kind of what was happening here.
Yeah.
It's like you just kind of, even though we're speaking in English, just how we're delivering things.
You understand that this has now become folded into, here is the language that your point of view character understands. You
Yes.
now understand all of this.
Yes.
So like at that point, it doesn't really matter what they're actually speaking.
Yeah.
It's just that you can understand it.
Yeah, they did a very good job with that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's definitely the thing for me. I watched that movie for this scene. We already talked about the Russian right-wingers.
Yeah, we don't need to talk anymore about them.
What's the most 90s thing about this movie?
Well, I think it's just honestly just cinematography and stuff in general. Like,
For some reason, it felt very much like an 80s fantasy movie to me. I don't know if it was the dude with the mullet that really did it for me or what.
to me, I don't know. Like, I got a very like Waterworld vibe from it.
Okay.
And I think it's like pacing and how camera shots were done.
The editing is very strange.
And I was telling Brandon, I was like, for me, this movie wasn't dynamic.
Okay.
It was very like it's like, here's a camera, it's set here.
Uh-huh.
And this is where we're just going to let people do stuff in front of the camera.
You have to decide what is important.
And then here we are going through the scene. We're gonna go through the woods, but it's very like weird.
Yeah, there's always like at least 3 people in every shot.
Yeah, and it's just like there was no like even talking about like that zoom up of that child running felt very Monty Python to me.
Oh yeah, anytime you zoom like that,
it was like what? And so to me, like it wasn't shot in a very like dynamic way that helped with the storytelling a lot. And it felt very much just, we put a camera here and stuff is gonna happen on the camera. And when like fighting was happening, there was moving around, but it wasn't, I don't know, it didn't feel, it was just something that just didn't feel.
you think it might be like pacing, something like that?
Pacing that
Did it
too,
not feel cohesive?
it just lingered.
Okay.
Does that make sense to me? So I felt like
Sure.
I kept waiting. Like this is it felt like it's supposed to be an action movie, but that's why I said it feels like Waterworld, because Waterworld also has action in it, but there's a lot of like just stretches of one thing, talking, people moving around, back, forth, done. And it doesn't really use a lot of the camera work to help tell the story. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it's just the color.
It could definitely have been helped if, I mean, cinematography can help clarify.
Yeah.
And that did not help here.
Or add more fear.
Okay.
Because I didn't really feel like there was one shot where when they were like talking at the house, the first house where they find the bodies and the head, and there's just a person just standing out in
one of the bear
people, and it's just like they cut away from everybody talking and just put to that, and it's like what would have been creepier is if they were all talking and you just saw somebody like peer out from behind them watching them, but instead you got this cut.
Is that maybe the one shot that's not from Ahmed's point of view? Like pretty much everything else
feels from his point of view. Or even when what's his face, the guy who died at the end was walking through like the undergrowth and the heads hanging.
That too.
Okay.
It was very like Ravenous-esque, where you're like you're just like from somebody's point of view as they're walking through. So there's a lot of point of view and a lot of just like like I can't just people doing things in front of a camera.
You know, I kind of wish they went all the way with that and had just his point of view, because that would feel more like an adventure movie where, you know, you have the Stranger in Strange Land thing, but it's everything you see is from his point of view, so it is kind of this adventure that you're on.
It would have absolutely been possible for Bullvite to go off screen, come stumbling back, clearly poisoned, and like, if we have to believe him if he says it's done, it's done. Yeah. So that's what happened. We probably didn't need to see that, did we?
Yeah, I think the only reason is just to know for a fact that he's poisoned.
Yeah.
Plus, we probably wanted to know what she looked like.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
What is it? Is it an otherworldly? So that's my only like. It just, and I'm looking at it from a 2019, 1999. If the movie itself felt like a 1999 dad movie. I don't know how else to explain it. It's just like it felt like a 1999 dad movie.
Yeah, not so much a dude movie, but more of a dad movie.
Yeah, because it wasn't really like overt, like
it wasn't toxic masculinity.
No, they all liked each other.
Yes,
they were
did.
all very, you know, and there wasn't just like shows of like complete brawn.
Yeah, they weren't all trying to dominate each other. Like they all had
there's like Band of Brothers, kind of thing. It felt, to me, that's what makes it.
Like they were celebratory of each other.
Yeah.
It was like the scene when they were all volunteering. Like everybody was literally celebrating.
Yeah.
Yeah. The sense of duty. I think that's a dad thing, I guess. Sure. At least from that time period. And like just like the overt color, you know, it wasn't very saturated. It was a very muted film.
Yeah, you could see the flickers, like film stock flickers.
That was going to be my answer for the most 90s thing. It's just a small technical thing of it looks like a modern movie in terms of, you know, it is, you know, fairly clear and has, you know, the coloring that we have. Because, you know, some of the movies in the 80s look a little muted, blurrier.
Yeah.
It's hard to... But this one had that, but it didn't also had that... That was a dirty movie.
It was very dirty.
Dirty.
There was dust. There was...
Just mud, gray.
Light spot... I'm talking about like the film stock.
Oh, yeah.
There was hairs all over it. There was dust.
That's
there
amazing.
was light spots and dark spots. The very beginning of that movie, I noticed it.
The CGI boat.
Well, just
too.
Just the stock. I
think that's one thing that is 90s for me, is that most of it is practical. There's like, I think the ocean stuff is maybe
at the beginning.
Although the shot at the end where Bullvine knocks the leader off the horse, that looks pretty weird. And then the jumping over the other horse kind of thing, that was probably also partially animated, but most of it was practical.
A lot of, the guy getting his head ripped off looked like it was really good effects.
Yeah,
it
was
the
bad.
chest getting sliced
Especially
open.
like when he's first walking through that farmhouse and he sees an arm and he lifts up this blanket and the arm just fucking falls down.
Yeah.
That looked real fucking good. Like that was meaty, like nasty meaty.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a good prosthetic. Is there anything that doesn't hold up specific? I mean, other than, I guess we've talked about the ship, the water.
I mean, I guess the only thing that doesn't really hold up for me is just Antonio Banderas being Arabic.
Yeah,
Okay.
Arabic. Yeah, that didn't work. I would rather see a recasting. I would love, and we know that this movie didn't do well in theater and box office.
Yeah, I read when adjusted for inflation, this is possibly the biggest flop of all time.
Oof.
Really?
Yeah.
It was like they budgeted 160. It was like a $160 million movie.
It was in development hell for years.
1979.
I was reading a little on
20
Wikipedia
years.
about, because like the book was written in the 70s,
Yes.
and they had originally planned to do the movie starting in the 79, directed by Michael Crichton, which I think he
He did
come
the
back
end.
and-
He took on directorship
Yeah.
at the end.
Yeah.
But even as far back as 1979, they were planning on turning this into a movie.
Yeah. So just from the fact of having that much time pass, reshoots always cost money.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like they said that they had replaced the mother at the end.
Oh.
Oh, really?
Like they had originally filmed it with a woman that was like 73 years old.
Oh,
but
really?
I
That's
was
kind of a
wondering-
bad look.
I was wondering
Yeah.
why she was so young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
because all the blood keeping her alive.
Yeah, and they reshot it with a young woman, but the old woman is still credited as the mother.
Oh,
Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
Okay.
All right. What I was going to say is, like, as far as, like, holding up, yes, I think if they were to redo this movie, which, who knows, somebody might,
It
because
could be edited better.
it could be edited better. I think I feel like the characters, like, I like them, but they definitely could have been a little bit more character depth to stuff.
Yeah. That was a complaint that the Bullseye actor had, was that, like, we had 10 months and we could have fleshed these characters out and they remained underdeveloped.
Yes.
Yeah.
It just, like, that's why you don't remember their name. Like, I don't even remember being introduced.
It was hard to hear their names.
Yeah.
I think if you could hear them, there were some you could catch.
But yeah.
I mean, the Laughing Man, you get a pretty good sense of who he is. Bullseye, you get a pretty good sense of who he is.
Yeah.
Maybe the redhead, maybe the guy with the mullet, but they're all the ones that make it to the end.
I mean, it's
So-
kind of hard to give that many people enough screen time to
Right.
really become
Well, I mean, I think of,
memorable.
like, The Hobbit.
Yeah, they had problems with that.
Well, they had the same, like, at first they did a good job. You know, the first beginnings of The Hobbit, the movie that was out, I don't know, it's been a while. But the dwarfs all were, like, pretty, like, I can remember a lot of them. And even on screen, they were memorable. And, like, you start out having this really good, strong, like, we're going on a journey, a band of brothers kind of thing. And then you would have been able to, like, have some more, like, actual scenes with character interactions, and just not, to me it felt very much like this, right? Here's 13th Warrior. Man goes off. He meets a bunch of people he can't understand. He understands them. They make fun of his horse and he shows off his horse. Okay. Oh yeah, there's these weird creatures. People, kill them. Kill them again. Kill them more. We're done.
Yeah.
Go back home.
And go back home. And it just felt like there was so much stuff at the last third of the movie. Like they tried to do three instances of fighting, essentially. It was like the ambush, the actual attacking, then they went through the caves, and then four major fight scenes in, like, the last third of the movie, it felt like, or 2/3 of the movie. And I would have scaled that back. Instead of having that many fighting interactions, you would have had more. This is like me planning a D&D interaction. All
I mean,
right.
if you had smaller fighting,
Combat's such a slog.
if you had smaller, encounters, you could flesh out people better that
Character,
way.
yeah.
But I think it
or
says
maybe if
Or
we had,
build mystery.
maybe we should have lost more than 2 of them in the first fight. That might
Yeah.
have helped.
yeah, that too. But I think it's a good sign that thinking that it's just Antonio Banderas that's not really holding up. Like, that's not even a huge complaint. I thought he was great in the role.
Yeah, I did too. So
Like-
what would it be, like Rami Malek now?
I don't know.
I honestly don't know a lot of Middle Eastern actors.
He's Egyptian, I think.
I like the story of 13th Warrior just fine, though.
Yeah.
But I think I agree with Brandon. It's just really casting
Yeah, I think
and character development.
mostly I think it holds up.
Here's how I could figure out who everybody was. Here's how I
Okay.
described them. You have Bullseye, Beowulf. Got it. You have the guy with the leather chest plate he wouldn't take off. You have an older guy with fluffy braided hair. You have a curly mullet. A literal boy who kind of disappears. Like you see a boy at the campfire scenes, but then he just kind of disappears.
Wait, he volunteered?
Yeah.
The boy? Oh,
okay.
I missed that.
Yeah, there were like, I could see the first 4 or 5, and then it kind of went into chaos.
Yeah.
And then the translator came back in with, that's number 8. Like, okay, we missed a couple in there. The pretty boy, there was a very pretty one that I don't think I noticed at all the first time I watched it for this. But then I was having to pay a lot more attention. I was like, damn, he's everywhere and he's beautiful. There's the happy redhead, the tattooed redhead.
And then the cute dog.
And then the dog. He was so big.
Yeah.
He was so red.
I read that the dog's real name was Connor.
I saw that too.
Aw.
And he had so much hair that it was parted in the center because it was so heavy and it was getting pulled down.
Yeah. He almost had dreads because it was kind of damp all the time. And yeah. So you think it basically holds up?
Yeah, I think so.
Is it going to hold up in 20 years?
I think people might be a little weirded out about the casting, but I mean, Antonio Banderas. But I think for the most part, like,
he at least looks right.
Yeah, and I think it's just another one of those cases of this is a historical movie that kind of gets around some of the issues that we have with movies that are, what do you call those movies? Historical.
Time.
There's a word that we've used a lot on the podcast, but I can't.
Period pieces.
Period pieces.
Yeah, I think that would be it. Kind of helps get around some of the awkwardness of time.
And as far as the Viking stuff, it wasn't half bad. Like, I know there weren't many women, but I mean, archaeologically, it's hard to find evidence of clothing, but from what they can gather, what I saw in this movie is very plausible. The men were basically dressed right. The armor was all over the place, but then they would steal armor from everywhere. So who knows?
Yeah.
There was some anachronistic armor, but video games.
Actually, I think the most 90s thing, now that I'm thinking about the women, is the makeup reminded me a lot of sitcoms from the 90s. There is something about the style that I think the Queen was wearing.
Something about her was like way too modern.
Yeah, I think that's probably the thing that stuck out. It just reminded me of like a guest from Seinfeld.
Okay.
That was
she
just
had
what
some
I thought.
updo with, hairs curling down the sides of her face, and I don't know, a very well-fitted dress, which is probably not so much right, but I'll let it go.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to speak to the accuracy on anything cultural.
But none of them had horns on their helmets.
That's good.
Good.
That's the one thing I know is that's not a thing.
And it was only a thing for the leader of the dumb bears.
No.
What do they know?
Yeah.
His horns of power.
Yeah. I think that's what she called them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm fairly certain.
Pretty sure. I laughed a little.
I feel like there was something else I was going to throw out. It might come to me. Is this a good movie?
I think so. Like, when I think about it, like, I definitely didn't dislike it. I'm hovering over whether or not I liked it, but I feel like it was doing what it wanted to do, and it wasn't doing it in a bad way.
Sure.
It's a very vague generic way of putting it. Like, it didn't seem bad.
Mainly not negative.
It's mainly, for me, it just didn't engage me like most movies that I enjoy. I think a lot of it, I talked about why, it's just, I couldn't hear a lot. It didn't, the pacing was weird. I didn't like some of the shots. But it wasn't bad. It wasn't like, I can't watch this. It's just, it was definitely felt like.
It takes work
to watch it. And like the one time that I really perked up and got engaged was that whole fight scene, because I knew it was like some drama.
And with the duel?
The duel. That was really cool to me. That was really engaging to me. Otherwise, it didn't.
It could have really benefited from being character driven.
Yes, it really could, because I didn't feel connected to anything. Like I said, it was very much a presentation of facts.
Because that's
here's
definitely...
this where it's happened. This happened.
There was so much I loved about The Laughing Man, and I was like, yeah, he's great, but I don't think you could put more of him in it. Like, I think he needs to work off of other people. Like, that's what was so fun about these people was how they interacted with each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there was so much camaraderie, even though they were all very different.
Yeah, and it just felt very subdued to me. So
Yeah.
And like the people, the bear stuff, like I was fine with it, but at the same time, it didn't feel very like super mysterious to me or super spooky. And
Yeah.
it just didn't.
It felt like too much of like maybe there wasn't enough vantage on that stuff. Like you were always a little too close to everything.
Yeah.
And maybe if they had pulled back a little, you could see where it fit into the world.
A little more. And like,
God, I'm glad that made
I
sense.
would have had more fun of them discovering more things.
Yeah.
Mysterious before we saw these beings.
Because that was the cool scene of in that great hall when they were first fighting, when things were mysterious. They were making those weird sounds and using bear claws as weapons and stuff like that.
I was going to also say, like, we know that this was part retelling. It's Michael Crichton's book that basically telling the story of Ahmed.
It melds these two stories.
Yeah, it melds these two stories. And then also, like, Beowulf, right? Yeah. To me, when I think about Beowulf, one that came out, like, 10 years ago, the movie, and then I also think about when I read Beowulf in high school, it felt like that kind of story. Like, it's literally like, here's your character, here's what they do, here's how they do it, this is what they find, this interaction happens, the end.
Highly recommend that you read An Icelandic Saga because it is so straightforward, and it just starts with like, here's this guy, here's his father, here was his grandfather, here was his great-grandfather.
Right.
So here's where we are now. Here's his friends, here's where he lives, here's what we're doing. And here's what we do next.
Right.
And here's what we do now.
And see, that's fine, and that's why it can work for this movie.
And that's maybe part of why I like this too, is because it reflects that so well.
And it's that kind of storytelling which works for that kind of piece, but I think if you're going for a wider audience, for like 1999 and even 2019,
which would have been white bombed,
yes, because it's not
everybody minored in Norwegian
or reads folks or like understands the different types of ways stories are told or and can appreciate that. And so for me, I can see it as that as I'm watching it and go, okay, it feels like Beowulf. It feels like when I read the Canterbury Tales and all this other stuff. Okay, I get it. But as a movie that I'm looking to enjoy in 2019, it doesn't really do it for me.
Sure.
I think the biggest issue with the movie, I don't think it's a killer issue, is just that it's not consistently engaging. There are a lot of engaging moments, but they're all front-loaded. And like once you were talking about the last third where it's just all fighting, you don't really get that engagement anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the interesting scenes is when they're all interacting. Like, it's the duel that's interesting. It's the learning the language that's interesting. It's barking at his horse, you know? It's that shit that is so fun about it. But when you're just tracking bear people, and then like you don't even see that stuff. You see like one paw print, and then for the rest of the movie, you're told, okay, the trail disappeared, or here's the trail, but you don't see it.
Yeah.
So, like, you're not even shown any of this stuff.
Right. Yeah, I can see why it did not do well back then, and I don't think in 20 years people are going to, unless they're doing it for, like, it will be an academic thing. Otherwise, for mainstream audiences, I don't think people are going to be like, oh yeah, 13th Warrior.
For mainstream,
I love watching 13th Warrior.
No.
It's my favorite movie. Like, no, it's not going to happen.
Except if you're me, then
and there's
totally.
other people out there who enjoy that. Yes, it's fine. It just mainstream.
Just me and dads. Dads everywhere.
And I like that. Actually, now that I'm thinking of other examples of movies that feature someone where they don't belong, basically, I think of like Avatar and Dances with Wolves. Those movies did it bad. I just don't like those movies as much. But this presentation of this person going into this other community I felt like they were really good about respecting, well, it's mostly about the Vikings, respecting at least the presentation of that culture as opposed to, Dances with Wolves, like the dude coming in and
White savior.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole thing, Last Samurai, stuff like that.
Oh, God.
Oh, Lord.
When I think about those movies and I think about this movie I think did a really good job of how it presented that stuff.
Yeah.
Because I love that concept, but you don't really see it presented well in movies. It's always, a club over your head.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I really love about that is, the stereotype of a Viking is they're these barbarians that get on drugs and go berserk and just kill everything. But
no, they seem like really nice people.
They party. They
presented them humanly.
They were always laughing. Like they had very dark humor, but that made sense for warriors who never really expected to live.
Yeah.
So it's like, what can you do but laugh? I love that about them. I think that's about it.
Yeah.
Any orphan notes from anybody?
I actually ran through my notes really quickly.
We're good.
My last one was about the stalactite, and then I just stopped taking notes after that point, which is probably about where the engagement fell off.
Yeah. And because I was like, they killed the big bad. We're done.
Oh, just that I read that, because I never read the original book, but that these bear people were supposed to be descendants of Neanderthals.
Right.
Which I think is an interesting concept. It reminds me a lot of like Congo or Jurassic Park. It's always these beings, entities that are either secluded from the world in some way, that they kind of persist. Like, because Congo was all about this mysterious land that had this type of ape. I don't know.
Like the rest of the world moves on without them kind of thing?
Yeah. And it was definitely the case here with the Neanderthal thing, where like this was a community that, was descended from them and just have always been.
Can I tell you something cool about languages?
Sure.
Is that, so the Vikings went everywhere. The ones that settled in Iceland were basically isolated after that point, such that modern Icelandic is basically still Old Norse.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like Norwegian and Danish and Swedish all evolved, but Icelandic didn't really.
I mean, there's a lot of water around there.
Yeah.
I do have one last thing that I'd like to talk about, which is just story stuff, right? So as I've been doing more writing and like stuff for games, this is going back to like why I was talking about like why the ending to me was just so like felt dragging on, where Brandon said the engagement just kind of dropped off, is you spend this whole entire movie building up to a thing.
A goal.
You do the goal, but then you get back to camp and then the DM's like, oh yeah, but by the way, there's more of the goal that you didn't take care of, and you're going to have to do some more math and physical labor or whatever in the game. And to me, that's story structure wise, it's like, that's why I think that it just dropped off then. Because like, yeah, we killed the mother. We're done.
So they sort of swapped the climax with the denouement.
Yes,
or
exactly. Or
something happened.
And it just is like, why did they do that? I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, I think that it could have been cleaned up if they had clarified you're going to have to do, but like the mother is not all of it.
Yes.
Like they do say it.
Yes.
But it's not.
To me, it's like you. It's a war of will, right? Or Will's the mother. Okay, well, I killed the mother.
Right, exactly.
But then,
there's the horned one still has will, I guess. Why?
Yeah.
And so that's why I think I didn't.
That's maybe why they all ran away after the leader was dead, because with the mother gone, they're all automatons anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So yeah.
What I would really like to see is, I read that the test screenings did very, very poorly.
Yeah, I heard that.
I really want to watch that version of the movie.
Yeah.
I want every second of film that exists of this. Oh my God, I would kill. But yeah.
Because is it one of those scenarios where what they hate, what the general audiences hate, is actually something that is critically interesting? That's what I want to see.
Right.
Like with Blade Runner, where they cut out, they had to add the just straight narration because of the test audiences. It's like Blade Runner is a very awkward movie.
Yes.
But putting blatant narration into it is even more awkward, I think. So test audiences needed that.
Flophouse says if a movie starts with narration, it's a bad movie. So this is a bad movie. I don't know. I think it works because of, like I said, the framework is, he is writing down a story
Yeah.
in his own words.
And a story method that is accurate to the time period.
Yeah, if the narrator is part of the movie,
Sure.
that probably
It's
works.
first person.
Because that's the same thing with American Beauty. Like, it was a character in the movie that was describing.
Right.
But when it's just some disembodied narrator.
And
Yeah.
the same thing as like the Blair Witch Project, the test audiences hated the ending that they went with anyway.
Yeah. Like, you can't always trust test
No.
audiences.
No.
I mean, I understand you're making a movie and you want to make money. You need test audiences, and you should generally listen to them.
But yeah, then if you're Michael Crichton, maybe you don't give a fuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, do what you want. Anyway, I love this. This is among, if not my favorite movie.
I enjoyed a lot of parts of this. It's hard for me to say I enjoyed the movie. I understand that.
I just want to live in it.
Like, I think it's a good movie, but I have a hard time being very passionate about the entire movie. I can be passionate about a lot of the scenes.
Yeah, totally.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I am also academically invested, which is like, this is so much of what excites me about what I want to learn.
Mm-hmm.
It's always fun having academic characters.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody that is curious and wants to see the world, not this like, I don't have to go on this mission.
Oh boy.
Like,
Yeah.
Wait till we talk about Lake Placid.
Kind of afraid, but yeah, he's curious to know what these people are all about, and yeah.
That really drives things forward, because if you had a character that was reluctant, oh God,
Yeah.
it would be so
boy.
frustrating to have the character being dragged from scene to scene.
Yeah, I mean, he does go around saying, like, I can't lift this sword, I can't fight, I'm not a warrior. But people just say, well, just fucking try.
Yeah,
and
suck
so
it
he
up.
does.
Get good.
Yeah, get good.
Get strong. Or just, kick the metal worker off his forge and make your own.
Yeah, because you're suddenly good at metalworking and...
Yeah, I did read that curved swords are a Turkish thing, and that Arabs had straight swords at that time.
Yeah, there was a lot going on with all that. I'm going to let it go.
Yeah, I just thought of that Skyrim meme with the guard in town. Curved swords.
Yeah, I love that guy. I think that was also the same voice actor that said the arrow to the knee thing.
God, yeah. They should probably write a few different lines for these cards in the next game.
Yeah, for a game that you can easily play for 300 hours.
Yes.
Maybe write a
problem.
little more.
Like, I understand that's a huge script to begin with, but
Yeah.
just throw another couple one-liners in there.
Or maybe make them say them less.
Yeah.
They
I
don't
would-
have to say something every time I pass.
Yeah, I would prefer a silent guard to the same line, same syntax, same voice actor.
Yeah, there's like 6 voice actors in that thing.
Yeah, it's always been a
And
problem.
one of them is the star of this movie.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
I never thought about that. Makes sense. I mean, if you want a Nordic voice,
Get a check. All right. We've been talking for way too fucking long.
Yeah.
all right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm so excited to do this.
Aw.
Woo.
Yay.
Yay.
1999 lives on ageekspective.com, where you can find other podcasts like this one. You can reach out to this show on the social medias at Plitgif, PLITGYIF. That's Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram. And you can find me on Tumblr at Sheeps. But put a dash in between all the letters. I don't know who Sheeps is. Do me a solid and leave a rating and review. Thank you for listening. Hope to see you at the next party.
I had a lot of fun listening to the Wing Commander episode.
That was a good one.
I've listened to it 2.5 times.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I always listen to him like 100 times because I'm always proud of him.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, that's cool. Thank you.
I think Wing Commander was just the energy for that movie was so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to get that kind of energy with as few people as we had that day.
Yeah.
Man,
God.
a bad movie will do that to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.